Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Canola, and welcome back once again to another edition here of the movie Battleground. And in tonight's matchup, we are, in a sense, you could say, completing the trilogy. Obviously, we've had a couple of really good rookies join us this season. And of course, we had three rookies kind of coming from the same place all over on the same YouTube channel joining us this year. Don and Joe obviously made their debuts earlier against each other. We were then able to bring in Josh, who made his debut against Joe. So when putting together these guys' next matchups, I figured, fuck it. Let's just finish it off. Let's have the other two play each other and get it all out of the way right at the start. Just for fun. Again, it's helping people settle in, getting them up against people that they're comfortable with, and seeing how the show runs. You know, it's something fun to do when we have the opportunity. So we do have those two players, Joshua Diggins and Don Tucker, return. Joshua coming in off of his debut, which was certainly an interesting and unique performance. Unfortunately, didn't result in a win, but he's hoping to probably grow on that tonight. Don is coming in off the back of his first win, hoping to pull a second. So both of these guys looking for something tonight. With that said, we'll go ahead and jump into the competitors. Introducing first, coming in with a record of 0 wins, 1 defeat, he is Joshua Diggins. Josh, welcome to the show, sir. Welcome back. So last time, as I said, when you took on Joe, I was very complimentary because I think you came in with a unique approach compared to what a lot of competitors take in terms of the way they speak and how they approach the arguments. Obviously, first time around, it didn't quite work out. Do you think you can grow and expand on that this time out to improve the results?
To quote the great Shakespeare, I must say, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler for me to win this time, then I believe so. It may be in my favor. I truly seek to do battle. I like the questions that you've posed. It seems that, the list that you gave us is something remarkable. And I just said, you know what? I think I have a chance at this one. And once I saw what Don's answers were, I was like, well, you know what? Maybe we can swing this. And I believe that the confidence is truly there from the beginning. I appreciate you bringing me on as a judge before, and then I've gone against Joe, my first loss. But I'd say this one, I'm definitely ready, my friend. Ready for battle at all times.
Absolutely. And if for some reason any of you are listening audio only, not that we do this as a podcast, you just have to not be watching the YouTube video. That is not the sound of Idris Elba. That is just an actor who's happy to be here.
He is right. It is just an actor that is happy to be here. That is me.
I don't know if that's what you were going for, but very, very nice.
Oh, I appreciate it, good sir. See how I just went right back into it. I can't help myself.
All right, man. We'll go ahead and sit you in the back for the moment. We'll bring in your opponent coming in with a record of 1 win, 1 defeat, and maybe no accents. I don't know. We'll see what happens. He is Don Tucker. Don, welcome back, sir. Obviously, everyone feels good coming in off the back of the win. Of course, it was your first win in that matchup. How are you feeling coming into this?
I'm feeling really good. No, actually, I'm feeling really good. That win was really nice. We both lost to Joe, so this is really a match we both can sort of prove ourselves. So
true, that is true. Yeah, Joe at 2-0 has beaten both of you. So
yeah,
obviously his next challenge is now taking on somebody he's less familiar with. That match will be in the near future, but for now you're looking to just take on a second win as quickly as possible. With that said, do you think there's anything still with only 2 matches under your belt coming into this that you could sort of shape up on without giving too much away, I guess?
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, no, absolutely. There, going back and watching those matches, there's where I just left points out that I wanted to make, and sort of got stuck on different points that I didn't want to get stuck on. So, oh yeah, there's always going to be room for improvement. I don't think that'll ever stop, no matter how good you get at this. I don't think you can ever be perfect. So. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, we'll go ahead and bring Josh back in, guys. Let's go ahead and hop into this. Movie Battleground is a game that is a best of 5 rounds. It is the first to 3 points wins the match. Each round of debate is worth 1 point. If a competitor picks up the first 3 points in a row, that will be a victory by knockout. And if at the end of 4 rounds we have a 2-2 tie, we do have a 5th question. That is called the blind round, and we will worry about it if we need to. In terms of these 4 questions, you guys have had them. You have had your time to prepare your arguments. You will get 60 seconds to open each, followed by a 2-minute solo expansion period, a 4-minute period of open back and forth debating, and a 60-second closing argument. Backstage, we have 3 judges in the form of Chris, Maria, and Andrea. They will join us on screen, and based on the arguments you've given, we'll deliberate who gets the point. With that said, guys, are we ready to go?
Let's do it.
I believe so. Josh, good luck, sir.
Good luck to you in the name of Conor McGregor.
Oh, okay.
All right. We'll go ahead and jump in. And every once in a while, it's nicer to phrase it as I like giving other people the chance to put questions in. The more correct term is sometimes I like to be lazy. So not only the first two questions tonight were actually viewer submitted questions that were sent in to us by your fellow competitors that are being used in this matchup. So shout out to them. We'll obviously name them once we get there. And this first one I think is really interesting because this is an example of a question that necessarily may not hit my mind because it's in a genre where I would certainly ask questions, but it's such a specific niche in a very wide genre that I'm willing to admit my mind may not naturally go there unless there's some sort of movie coming out that very, very closely correlates to it. There isn't one of those. So instead, thanks to Austin Howell, the question is, what is the best comedy set in a college? Now, with that said, behind the scenes, Don, you are the higher ranked competitor, so you have the choice of which ones to go first on. You chose 2 and 4, which means, Josh, you're going to be going first on this question. I'm going to go ahead and pull in your guys' timer for you. Of course, wish you guys both the best of luck on this match. And with that said, Josh, once you begin speaking, your time will start for 1 minute.
All right. Well, let's start off with this. I believe that if in every college movie, there's, humor that obviously this is a comedy. So, certain tropes that happen in college, things that we see in school. I went a little unorthodox with my pick. I decided to choose one of animation, one of true fantasy. That is Monsters University. Now, the reason I chose Monsters University is because I believe the creativeness of what Pixar was able to do, these scare classes, going back to seeing how Sully and Mike got into Monsters Inc. and just seeing that transfer. It's like a trade school at some point, but it's just a university. But just the different classes that they have to take, the games that they had to take, the creativity in creating some of the fraternities and the sororities involved in that, and watching these two have this rivalry going back and forth at it, these roommates living together, quirky, weird in all sorts of ways, but wanting to come together as misfits to show that they are the best that this campus has to offer. Thank you.
And time. All right, Don, over to you for your opening minute of the game. Time starts when ready.
Yes. All right. So, yes, there are a lot of answers to this question. One of them is not Monsters University. You can go with, Back to School. You could go with a Revenge of the Nerds. But I went with one that sort of, I think, has a lot of heart. It has a lot of that college feel. And it's one of the best performances from somebody that we now love and is in our hearts all the time, Mr. Ryan Reynolds. I went with Van Wilder. I love this movie. I think it's a great heartwarming story. And it's just him going through this transition throughout this movie is one of the funniest things you'll ever watch. And Cal Penn gives one of the greatest performances as an exchange student, Raj. So, yeah, I'm going with Van Wilder. I'll get into more of why in the next rounds. I yield.
All right.
Yep.
Josh, back over to you, sir. You have 2 minutes on the clock when ready.
All right. So with Monsters University, I believe that it was different. It was not what I was expecting. I believe on my first watch, I wasn't really the biggest fan of it. But then, watching it post-college, I kind of felt it a bit more. I wish I could have said that the best comedy set in the college was My Time at Frostburg, but that was not an eligible answer, nor do we have anything to record all of that data. But Monsters University, I enjoyed it simply because there were so many things that really... It's just like this is what it was like. This is what it was like on that campus. And you had everybody that had their groups. You had the big jocks on campus. You had your big fraternity people on campus, your big sorority girls on campus. Different class. You had those professors that were like so pish posh and very, very much by the book. You can't turn this in late. 12:01, it's late. Like you can't do it like that. Things like that. I enjoy Monsters University for all of its creativity. The fact that they were able to come up with their own, like what was it, like Gamma Gamma Mu or whatever, and how what they all represented the different sorority games that happened literally on campus. We had different sororities and clubs and groups that were competing in like these great tournaments. That was so much fun, and why it stands out to me. I don't see how you don't like it. How do you not enjoy it? So there's the fun in that, like watching Mike, try to go through this and prove that he is the best scarer out there, and showing that, like, hey, we can work together, because I might not be as intimidating as I think, but I have the brains for this. And Sully, you've got, the physicality for it. So why don't we just form this partnership up? And it turns into this buddy comedy that of them competing consistently with each other. It's the brains versus brawn, but clearly both together, unlike Professor Hulk, actually could work out. So with that being said, time, Don, you suck.
All right. Back over to you, Don. How do you respond?
All right. So Monsters University, yeah, it vaguely takes place in a college, and yes, obviously there's a lot of in your face, this is a college type stuff that happens, with the sororities, like you said, with the jocks and all that stuff. But it's not really a college movie. It's about them meeting. That's what the heart of the story is. With Van Wilder, what you get is a story of a guy who doesn't care about college, doesn't really want to finish college. He gets cut off by his father from money, so he has to figure out how to pay for tuition for while the rest of the year that he's in there. And he goes through, and he has these crazy parties that he throws for everybody, and he has this great one that he throws for the nerds that he throws a huge party for them. And he's like, look, I don't want the notoriety for it because Tara Reid's trying to write the story on him. He's like, I don't want any of that, man. I don't want any of that. I wanted to do it because I wanted to do it. And because through falling in love with her, he winds up wanting to, graduate through this whole time. And he gets set up. We get some of the greatest comedy in this movie. Again, everything is focused around him being in college and why he wants to stay in college now after not wanting to be in college for all this time. Where Monsters University, we just don't get that level of attachment to a college. And this is the best comedy set in a college. So that's where I can't really follow how Monsters Inc. falls into that category for me. Again, it's a great story of how they meet and stuff, but it's not even, it doesn't even touch the first one. So it's still hard to put it up there with that. So yeah, I'll yield my time after that. But yeah, Monsters University just not there for me.
Interesting.
Oh, the back and forth is going to be fun.
Oh yeah, it's going to be so much fun. Cannot wait.
All right, so we are going to go into that 4-minute period. With that said, the timer will start back up for you guys once the first competitor speaks.
All right, I just want so explain to me why it's the best movie set or best comedy set in college. That's where I'm just kind of falling short on it.
Well, because it's in the name, Don, Monsters University. It may not be humans there, but it is a university, therefore being a college where people are going, living in these dorms, in these campuses, these frat houses. It's just all over the place. Somebody steals a war pig. A pig is stolen, sir.
Mm-hmm.
The people playing pool. There's a romance dance that's going on. Like they got
and then Van Wilder
ballet playing in the background.
Where he sends pastries with dog semen over to the other. I went there. Oh, damn right, I went there.
Yeah, you did
back
go
to
there.
Tara Reid's boyfriend and the frat. So I mean, come on, if that's not college, man, that is college movie written all over it. Again, the jokes in Van Wilder they are so college focused and they're smart. Like I said, there's a lot of heart in this movie. There's a lot of great performances. Cal Penn gives one of the greatest performances he's ever given, dude, as the exchange student that just wants to get laid. It's just fucking like, come on, man. It's so funny. It's such a great storyline. Again, Ryan Reynolds is Ryan Reynolds, man. He's just amazing in this movie.
Look,
but again, it's focused around the college and the fact that he wants to stay in college.
And while I respect that story.
He
I
gives one
got
of the
that.
greatest speeches at the end too.
But hear me out, Don. Understand this, sir.
Okay,
Understand
I'm
this.
listening.
This is about a kid. All right, this kid who's grown up on the other side of the tracks. He's got one eyeball. Okay,
Yeah.
he's got one eyeball. He's green to the world. He's a little wet behind the lack of ears, and he's just trying to figure out his place in all of this and all of these monstrosities. What can I do? If I can become the best scarer out there, let's see if I can do it. It's kind of like when you first get. Think about when you first get to college. One of the first thoughts might be in your mind. Well, I can't speak for everybody. One of the first thoughts in my mind was, let me be the best student possible. Some people are like, let's see how many backs I can bust down. Let's see how many parties I can hit, become this front man, like for all these things, what have you. Mike is focused. He wants to do what he needs to do to be successful. And then it also touches on the themes of, you can't just rely on the legacy of someone who came to that college before you, had set his own tone. I'm talking about James P. Sullivan Sr., who was already went there and became one of the greatest scarers. But you can't just rely. Name recognition alone does not automatically always equivalent to you becoming great as well. Sully had to find his own path.
It's just Monsters Inc. set in college,
but which I
really
got
set in college, because it's not focused on the college part. It's just focused on.
But we're not talking Monsters Inc. though. Which I got your point earlier. You're saying it's just Monsters Inc. in college, but I got you. It's still a prequel, but it's still taking place within the college, and we're learning how they got to where they came to. It's like it's going to a trade school, and you're seeing these plumbers, and you're wondering how they got to where they are. It's almost like you make a movie about a plumber, and then you go back and you try to see, well, what was it like in trade school? Maybe he got hit upside the head with a pipe. I don't know. Maybe
I will just say this. I think if you're going to say what is the best comedy set in college, I think a comedy that is set around the narrative of being in college, trying to stay in college, just all the things that he has to go through in that movie, I think just serves that purpose more, to where Monsters Inc. is, again, I love the movie. I'm not putting the movie down. It's just, I don't think it fits. I wouldn't call it a college movie. It's not a
but
movie.
How not? If it's literally set, it's not in a real world college. But think about it's its like, own thing.
Back to school with Ronnie Dangerfield, and there's oh my God, Revenge of the Nerds. I mean, there's just so many other college comedies that I would think of first, other than that.
Understandable. I couldn't say Good Will Hunting. It's not a comedy, but it's set in the college. But so there is that. I mean, yeah. But hey,
again, I like the movie. I'm just thinking how it fits in that genre.
They also were
that it's just set there.
It's there. It's still a comedy. It's just an animated comedy. It's like Shrek. Yeah.
Right. And time. All right, we're gonna go into the 1 minute closings. Josh, you're back up first. You have 1 minute on the clock when you start.
All right, ladies and gents, I just want to say that I truly believe that Monsters University does qualify. No, it's not at Harvard. It's not at Brown. It's not even at Stanford, nor is it at UCLA. It's not at Frostburg State University, where I went to. No, it's at none of those places. It's in its own world, and you learn how, it's like I said, one of those core themes to it is legacy, and name recognition does not always equal to you just having to be successful just because of your name alone. It happens in some situations, but that does not always mean that you are as good as your predecessor. It does not always work out that way. So what do we learn from this? Well, the guys get kicked out. They tried their best to, find a way to scare the living crap out of all these people. Didn't work out. They got kicked out. Now they're working at Monsters Inc. at some point. Yeah, we see that, and that's great. It's wonderful. But like I said, it's set in a college. It's still a comedy. It qualifies. Good Will Hunting did not, so I obviously could not pick that. But, obviously there's more college comedies I got to watch. But hey, Monsters University, you qualify.
And time. All right. Over to Dawn. You have 1 minute left when ready.
So again, I feel like the heart, the story, the overall connection to college, the comedy itself, this was one of the funniest movies I've ever watched. From like I said, the dog semen in the pastries is a great joke. It really is. It's funny. It's really funny. The sick kid is really funny. All the stuff that he does in this movie is great. But I think where this movie, like I said, really just takes over is the heart and the story, because what you see, the growth with Van Wilder throughout the movie, it's a really fun movie to watch, but it's also a really heartwarming movie to watch. And when we're talking about Monsters University, as I said before, I just don't feel like it fits the college mold of comedies set in a college. And I just don't feel like it's really about college. It's more about just, two friends meeting each other. And from Van Wilder, we learned that Naomi backwards is I moan. So.
And time. All right, guys. Solid start there. I'm going to go ahead and put you guys in the back, and we will bring the judges forward. All right, as the judges are writing down their picks, it is worth noting, this is more so a word of advice to anyone competing. I normally jump in during the rounds at points like this, but because it was such a focal point of the argument, I did not want to derail anyone before the judges had made a vote. But for what it's worth, if something is accepted, it does qualify. It more just a technicality of saying if you're picking a point to focus on the debate. I do vet all the answers, more so just for anyone as well at home wondering. It is, and the wording is comedy set in a college, so it does qualify since that was a point of the argument. But with that said, Chris, up to you. Who gets your vote? And as briefly as you can put it, what was your main selling point?
You're muted.
You're muted, sir.
This is the first time I went back and forth in this shot to match. In the end, by the slim margin, and I was thinking of the question and just hearing the way he described it with Josh. I think the way he described everything for the sorority to the sorority game to the college experience, I just heard a little bit more. Even though I wished he could have not done maybe a little bit, I think that just gave me a more clear example. And they stick with me throughout the debate, especially in the closing argument. It's Josh.
Okay. Maria, down to you.
I picked Josh as well. The part where Don had lost me is when he said, well, Ryan Reynolds was Ryan Reynolds. It's like, well, of course he is. That's who he is in every movie. I mean, that's nothing new, nothing outstanding. And Josh said that it was an unexpected, kind of a surprise to have them at college, and it was a new concept to explain, the doors and all that stuff. So I thought he had better arguments.
Okay. It cut out on my end. You're voting for Josh, just so I'm certain.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sorry, the audio did cut briefly on my end. Thank you. Judges, I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the back, and we'll go ahead and move on to question number 2, which is also a viewer-submitted question. This one was sent in to us by Mr. Chad Webb, and I think this is just a sweet question, man. Sometimes you just want to talk about good, heartfelt movies. And what is more heartfelt and approved by Nicolas Cage than the Paddington series? I mean, it literally was approved. It like think about this. A theatrically released movie took about 5 minutes of its runtime to validate Paddington 2. If that is not a seal of approval from anyone, I don't know what is. But nervously for, I think, a lot of fans of the 2 films, director Paul King, due to his commitments to doing Wonka at the moment, opted not to return to the 3rd film. He has written the script, but he is not going to be directing it. And so the question here is, as submitted by Chad Webb, who is your dream choice to direct the 3rd Paddington film? Now, for what it's worth, I did just throw out the real-life fact that Paul King wrote the script. I should make it clear to the judges, I did not give these guys any parameters to follow, so should they choose to angle writing as a part of their arguments, that's totally fair. Just because I brought up a fact in the real world does not mean it has to affect the argument at all, and I want you guys to be aware of that as well in case you included it. Okay? Just because I put no parameters on the question, that's just more me throwing out facts. So with that said, though, we are going to go ahead and jump into this. Dawn, you will get the timer first this time around. So I'll go ahead and put myself in the back, and you can start when ready, sir.
Yeah. So I went with somebody who I think has proven over their career that they know how to handle story. They know how to handle, more even kids type stories or younger adult type stories. I think which is something that would be perfect for Paddington 3. Kind of give it a little more mature, maybe in the middle vibe. Uh, you know, um, but I went with Favreau. I went with John Favreau, and I think with what he's done recently with Marvel and Star Wars, and what he's done in the past with so many other movies, and I will get into that obviously. I just feel like he's probably the best pick for me, at least at the moment, just for what I would want to see, because that's a really good franchise. So I don't want to see somebody ruin it. So I think we can trust Favreau. Yield my time.
All right, John Favreau, the first pick up. We are going to go over to you, Josh, for your pick. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Well, sir, if I could just have a marmalade sandwich, I'm pretty sure that I'd be, well, fully sufficed with Sally Hawkins and Mr. Belvenue. So, Paddington. Let's see. Who do I think could direct Paddington 3? Who do I think could handle that kind of world? I think you need someone a little quirky, someone a little odd, a little strange, because that world is a little odd, a bit strange, but fun, lighthearted. You enjoy it. You get it. And I went with the great Wes Anderson. I think that he could definitely take on the third Paddington movie. No, he didn't write it, but directing wise, I think that his style, his especially in some of those symmetrical angles, as we see, some of those take place in the actual movie of Paddington itself. And just like if he could do that the whole way through, I mean, just there's so much. Like it's Wes Anderson, man. I'll get into it in my next statement, but it's Wes Anderson all the way.
And time. All right. So, John Favreau versus Wes Anderson. There are not many topics that could place these two in a battle against each other, but damn it if Paddington isn't one of them. Don, back over to you, sir. You got 2 minutes on the clock when ready.
Okay, so let me sort of just go through a few of what Favreau has done recently. So he did Lion King, the live action Lion King. Obviously, the Jungle Book. He did something that I think I love. Mando. He's obviously been involved with the Mandalorian. But let's go back. So he did Iron Man. He's done Rudy. He's done Elf. He did Zathura. Now, if I don't know if anybody remembers Zathura, but that is a hidden gem. Please watch that movie if you haven't. So yeah, again, the reason I went with Favreau for me is he knows the target audience. He knows how to write for the target audience, and he's really good at it. I think we can. I think there's really no argument against that. He's at least good at doing these type of movies. And if you want somebody to come in and sort of give you a third movie in a franchise that's already established, you want somebody that can really hit it out of the park. So I think that's why I feel like Favreau is the best. Really, my argument against Wes Anderson, and I love Wes Anderson, but I don't know if I want Grand Budapest Hotel version of Paddington. I don't know if I want Life Aquatica Paddington, Royal Tenenbaums Paddington. Again, love these movies, but it's going to be hard. Again, this is following up the first two movies. I think is kind of just where I'm thinking with that at. I think it would be an interesting movie. I think Wes Anderson he's an interesting choice. But again, I think we want to keep this franchise going for a little while longer. So let's bring Favreau in. Let's get a nice, good third one in, and then maybe we can go crazy with Wes Anderson in the fourth. I'll give you my time.
All right, that is it. Josh, over to you, sir. 2 minutes on the clock when ready.
So, you mentioned Jon Favreau, which I respect Mr. Favreau, even though he directed one of the worst films I've ever seen, Lion King 2019. But that debate's neither here nor there. So, but my argument for Wes Anderson is that there's this quirkiness to him. Especially his style alone does it. Now, he doesn't have experience, obviously, doing franchises like Mr. Favreau does. You know, he did a big film like Jungle Book. He's done Mando. He's done Iron Man. He's done Iron Man 2. That's here nor there. But Wes Anderson, though, him alone, his skill set is suited to the way that these movies are shot. His skill set is definitely suited to it. You can see the different camera angles that he could take. You can see the symmetry, the symmetrical angles that he would definitely go along with. There's a scene in the first movie where they're making the marmalade. Just imagine that, like that whole scene with the machine done on a symmetrical standpoint. I know he could do it, and it would look so cool following this marmalade going down. And it would be like no cuts. It would be just like this one long, interesting, symmetrical take of how that takes place. There's a lot of scenes in the original where it's like these wide shots that he's able to take, where you can see everything, and he does the bright colors. He enjoys all of that. He enjoys the family dynamic. Fantastic Mr. Fox is a great example of that. Isle of Dogs is also an example of that. Moonrise Kingdom, another one. Like just those, he understands family themes. He knows what it means to build these relationships. And I believe that Paddington 3 would benefit from Mr. Wes Anderson. And if successful, which I believe it could be, he could carry on the rest of it and take the name King from Paul King himself. He'll become King Paul Wes Anderson. That'll be his name from then on. I'm telling you, King Wes Anderson. That's it. That's your selling point. Paddington 2 Marmalade being featured with Mr. Anderson. And you might see George Clooney pop up. Who knows? I mean, he just might voice a marmalade sandwich. It'd be great. It'd be the smoothest marmalade sandwich conversation you'd ever seen. And I yield my time.
All right, that is time on the 2 minutes. We're going to hop into the 4-minute open discussion here as I don't know where I was going with that sentence. I'm going to be quite honest with you. My brain just died mid-sentence. So I'm going to let you guys talk. You're doing better at that than me right now. The timer starts when the first person speaks.
Well, I will say, like I said, I believe that Jon Favreau is a very capable director. He's a very good director. I'm taking nothing away from him. Chef is one of my favorite movies that he's done. It's great. And he has a very artistic and very keen eye. I just think specifically for this world and the way that things are done and how things are set up, I think Paul King, in a way, does have some inspiration from Mr. Anderson, just on certain shots that he takes. It loans itself to it. Now, granted, had Wes been able to write the script, I think that the jokes would still be, in a way, very similar. It would be a drier humor. But I think it would still be humor that we would all know and love nonetheless. That's just how I feel about it. I mean, not that Jon Favreau can't do humor. I mean, he's a very funny guy.
Just for me, I think Wes Anderson he's a great director, and I think he could be a great like kids movie director, or not kids movie, but you know what I mean, younger
family film, yeah.
But he's just too quirky sometimes. It gets in the way. Fantastic Mr. Fox, I think for me, is actually a really good example of that, where I do feel like his style gets in the way a little bit. No, I like the movie. It's nothing against the movie itself. It's just his style is so in your face sometimes. It really is. That's all I mean.
So you put him in like what, a category of Sam Raimi? Is that what you're thinking? It's like just kind of.
I mean, a Wes Anderson film. I mean, look at that new trailer for his new movie. I mean, it's very specific. It's a Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, exactly. And Paddington could. Oh my! Like, I'm just imagining it.
Look at Zathura, and look at Mando, and the worlds he can create. Man, I mean, he is a master storyteller in that way, and he can shoot anything. Man, I mean, Favreau really can. And if they do any flashbacks where they go back to the jungle, I mean, look at Jungle Book. He can shoot realistic backgrounds, like I mean, insane. I mean, some of those shots he gets in that movie are really, really great. So I don't think he would have an issue with any of the shots for Paddington 3. I don't think that would. Again, Wes Anderson. Wow, man, that's just a weird.
I'm telling you, because listen, Wes has yet to truly fail me. I've already felt failed by John with What? What am I going to say, Don? Go ahead and say it for me. Tell me, what movie did John fail me on? You know what it is. We talked about this
Tell me.
numerous times.
Go
You know
ahead
what
and
it
tell
is.
me.
It involves lions, good sir. And those
I don't
lions,
think he failed. I
he
think he
crossed
hit
the
it out of the
line.
park.
I'm sorry. No, he did not. But that is not the debate. That is not our debate.
No.
That is not our debate. But I believe that given
So
the
you're
chance,
telling me that the man that wrote Elf can't write a good Paddington movie?
he could.
not wrote
I'm
Elf,
not
but
saying he
directed Elf. I'm
can't.
sorry,
John very well could write a very good Paddington movie. Well, it's already written. He could direct. If Paul King had not written it, let's talk
I'm
about
just
this.
trying to think. Like I just don't know how you get a Paddington movie out of Wes Anderson.
I'm telling you, man, it
not
works
like Life Aquatica. Like it would be so
wouldn't
weird.
be.
It's so
It
out
would be.
there.
It would be more like a Fantastic Mr. Fox, if anything. I truly believe that, and it's great. Listen, you would know that it's a Wes Anderson movie, yes, but
Yeah.
I think Wes
definitely know
also
it's Wes
knows
Anderson movie.
that because of the source material, he would respect the source material while adding his own flair to it. Like
I
it
don't
would
think he would
still be.
disrespect it or in any way. I don't mean that. I don't mean that at all. I just, again, it's his style that I don't know that just. I don't know if it fits. Again, I just have to see more than just fantastic. Yeah,
Have you
Mr.
seen Isle of
Fox.
Dogs?
I haven't seen that, so maybe I do. But
Moonrise Kingdom.
I don't know if he can pull off that type of movie yet. And again, it's nothing against him. It's just I don't know if he's there yet.
The man is proven, sir.
He makes great movies, but his style of movies.
It's blasphemy.
And time.
God damn it.
All right, guys, we got 1 minute left on the clock for each of you in this round. Don, you're back up first, sir, so the timer will start for you once you begin speaking.
Okay. Jon Favreau did The Jungle Book. He did Elf. He did Zathura. He writes for the Mando. He did Iron Man 2. He brought us Lion King, which is, yes, you can call it a shot-for-shot remake of one of the greatest animated movies of all time. But if that's one of the greatest animated movies of all time, then a shot-for-shot remake is still a pretty good movie. He made a really great Lion King movie, live-action Lion King movie. I think his comedy lends well to Paddington. I think his style of writing and his style of storytelling lends well to Paddington. And again, just going back, I just don't know if I could sit through a Life Aquatica version of Paddington or a Grand Budapest Hotel version of Paddington. So I think if we're talking about, again, making this franchise continue and continue into the future, I think you need somebody that can really knock it out of the park, which is Favreau.
And
Go
time.
Josh.
All right, we're going to go back over to Josh for the final minute of the round when you're ready, sir.
My first sentence will conclude with the Lion King is the greatest animated movie of all time, and Jon Favreau somehow butchered it still. But what I will continue to say is that Mr. Wes Anderson is an artist, a absolute artist. That's not saying that John is not an artist. He's an excellent storyteller, which also, he's very much an artist, yes. But I just think that for Wes's style, for the way that he conveys certain themes, I think it would be it wouldn't be much of a big pivot as far as the movie goes. It would just be his style on it, and I think it works. I think he lends itself to it because some of the humor is out there, some of it is weird, and he will go there. He will push some of those boundaries. I mean, come on. I think Wes could shoot a scene like when Paddington falls over on the table and wipes his butt and sees the cream and he just eats it. Yeah, that is such. I think that's a Wes Anderson thing. That is something that he would do. I see it very clear as day. Would he do it as blatant as that? It might be a little more subtle. Who knows? But that's because of Wes's skill. He can do the subtle. He can do the out there. He's great all around.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and sit you guys in the back, and we will bring the judges in for the deliberation here as they go ahead and get their choices down on their whiteboards. I do have a couple of quick fact checks to pull up here. The first one was at one point during the match when Jon Favreau's directing jobs were being rattled down. Rudy was mentioned. He is only in Rudy as an actor creatively. He had no control over that movie. Secondly, multiple times, I believe it at different points by both competitors, the film was referred to as The Life Aquatica. That may have been an inside joke. These two are friends. However, the film is The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, not Aquatica. That's a theme park here in Orlando, Florida. And finally, we have for The Lion King, depending on who you ask, both gentlemen's assessments are correct. Critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 52% approval rating with an average score of 6 out of 10. Audiences, however, gave it an 88% approval rating with an average score of 4.4 out of 5. And the audience consensus put together by Rotten Tomatoes said from audiences says that the film does successfully update the original with new visual effects. So clearly, depending on who you're speaking to, a more critical-minded person or a more audience-minded person, quote unquote. That's a very generalized way of putting it. Successful or unsuccessful. Personally, I'm somewhere right in the fucking middle. With that said, Maria, up to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
The main selling point was Don. I don't think he did a good job explaining Jon Favreau other than just reading his credentials, which we all know he makes movies. But Josh had some really good arguments for Wes Anderson, whom I personally dislike, but I think he did a good job of selling him over Don's pitch. So I went with Josh.
Okay. Andrea, down to you.
I also went with Josh on this one. I think he was able to specifically say why Wes Anderson would be a good fit for Paddington, whereas what Maria just said, Don was just rattling off Favreau's accomplishments in other movies without specifically saying how he would go about creating the Paddington movie as a director. So my vote goes to Josh.
All right, judges, thank you guys. I'm going to go ahead and sit you in the back, and we'll go ahead and jump into question number 3. As I've said recently in multiple matches, at the moment of recording, I am unsure exactly what week this uploads. So either this week at the moment, coming up for release when this uploads, of course, because if I don't state that, this is not going to make much sense. But in the upcoming week, or just in the last week, depending on when this goes up, DreamWorks released the film Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Over a month out from its release, it looks fine. I don't really have much thought towards it. And that's kind of DreamWorks, you know what I mean? They had overall a very successful year last year. And then prior to that, they had a couple of just okay films. I'm sure we were all roused by Spirit Untamed. And then they have a couple of really good hits before that. How to Train Your Dragon 3 was pretty excellent. There's some good stuff in there. And then you get like, I don't know, Trolls World Tour, which was like, all right, cool. That fucking came and went, didn't it? And that's kind of DreamWorks. Unfortunately, they spend a lot of time whittling in and out between films that leave a lasting impact on you for ages to come. And, well, my next reference was going to be B-Movie, which has also weirdly left an impact on people in ways I don't want to get into. So, with that said, the question is, what is the best DreamWorks film of all time? No, for all you B lovers out there, it's not B-Movie. I don't care how much you like that movie. It's fucking not B-Movie. Spoiler for the judges, it's not the B-Movie.
God, man.
It's also not, I don't think anybody would try and argue this point, but let's just get it out of the way as well. It's not fucking Shark Tale either. That one's... Who the fuck thought they should take Will Smith's face and just post it on a fish? It's disgusting, man. All right.
That's a fair point.
It's atrocious. DreamWorks when they're good. I love both these movies these guys are about to talk about, but fuck when they miss, they miss. Jesus. Yeah. All right, let's get into the good stuff, though. What is the best DreamWorks film of all time? These guys have picked some fucking excellent films. I'm looking forward to this. That said, Josh, you are up first on this one, so I'll throw you the timer. It'll start ticking when you begin speaking.
All right. I will say that DreamWorks contains some of the greatest animated movies of all time, Spirit being one of them, not Spirit Untamed. The first one in 2002, Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron, is phenomenal. B-Movie, Also, it's just a guilty pleasure. Okay, it really is just a guilty pleasure. I'm not saying it's one of the greatest, but to watch it just to turn your mind off, that's it right there. I could have said Prince of Egypt. I was thinking about it. I almost did, but I didn't. I thought about Shrek, but it's not that one. It was something I saw last year, something that caught my mind's eye, something that really riveted me and changed something in me. My whole life was just predicated on this movie right here, this absolute masterpiece involving a wishing star, the return of Antonio Banderas. Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish, is the greatest animated movie that DreamWorks has ever made. Hands down, there is no argument for it. Don, don't even speak the next 10 minutes. It's just that. That is literally it. Puss in Boots 2, and I cannot wait to dive into why. But that movie should have won Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. Hands down, time. Screw Pinocchio.
And time. I should say, my clarifying that these are the animated films. I didn't write that in the question, at least the one on the banner, only because I don't think anybody's ever asked the question, what's the best live action film that DreamWorks Pictures put out?
Right.
When's the last live action
Right.
film that DreamWorks Pictures put out? That's a great question. With that said, Dawn, over to you. 2 minutes on the clock. Man, what is my anger against DreamWorks? This is weird. Dawn, 2 minutes on the clock for you. Or 1 minute first.
1 minute, yeah.
Then we get 2. That's how that works.
Okay, so I think I went with the most obvious choice. I mean, maybe there's an argument for a couple other ones. But I went with a movie that when I watched it for the first time, man, I just remember laughing literally the entire time watching this movie. I mean, this is just one of those movies that hit you and hit you hard, man. It's comedy, just genius from beginning to end with the 2 performances we get. Well, really 3-4 performances that we get in this movie, in an animated movie. I went with Shrek. I mean, Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, Eddie Murphy. I mean, you can't go wrong with this movie. It's just such a great story. It's so funny. Eddie Murphy as Donkey is just one of the best characters in an animated movie ever. And Shrek too. So I went with Shrek.
All right. So we do have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish versus Shrek. With that said, we're going to jump back over to you, Josh. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Turn me up. All right. So I could have went with How to Train Your Dragon. I love every movie in that franchise. It is phenomenal. Kung Fu Panda, same thing. Every last one, especially the second one. That's the best one. Phenomenal. But once I saw Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I remember seeing the trailer for the first time. And my mind was like, okay, well, they're doing this. Didn't expect it to, I'm like, all right, fine. Well, I'm going to go check this out. The animation looks great. Looks good. Cool. Boom. Go into the theaters, see it. My mind exploded. Brain melting everywhere. There was gray matter against the walls. My cerebellum was somewhere else on the side of the floor. Could not figure out where it was because that movie is so good. My brain exploded. Why? The themes, the animation, the Puss is literally, we're seeing his growth as a character. We've always known Puss as like what he is. He's this arrogant cactus, pray for mercy for Puss in Boots and Corinthian leather. That is all we know him for that. We got that. I understand that. But at the same time, what Puss in Boots: The Last Wish did, what Joel Crawford was able to do with this movie is show that there is something more to life than just what we have in a singular moment. You have to realize you had all these 9 lives. You had all these 9 lives. You wasted 8 of them. Now you're really having to try to figure out how you're going to move forward with this last life. And so when you go and you put death up against him, and it's just the reveal of that being so powerful, they have the greatest villain of all time in DreamWorks history in the movie being death itself, the big bad wolf, whatever you want to call him, Lobo. That is who he is. He has taken the mantle of the greatest villain in DreamWorks history simply because of what he was able to do. He pushed Boots. He pushed Puss. He pushed and made Puss have to grow as a character, like literally take that arc of, well, I cannot live this way anymore. I can't keep being this arrogant guy. I can't keep being this legendary hero. Is there something else in life worth fighting for? And he finds that. It's soft pause. But he just could not accept that back then because his love for being the legend was bigger than his love for her. But death made him see something completely different. See, life changes when you see their death in the face. Oh, I'm telling you, this movie gets me fired up, man. It's the greatest, hands down.
And time. All right, Dawn, over to you.
I have yet to see this movie, this Puss in Boots movie. I have heard great things, so I will not sit here and try to act like I've seen it or diminish the movie. I'm just going to talk about Shrek for a second and let you know. Again, when you first watch this movie, or when you watch this movie the 100th time, seeing these two characters come together with Shrek and Donkey, and then the two love stories that crazily burgeon out of this with Fiona and Shrek and Dragon and Donkey. One of the craziest things we've ever seen, but still works and is so amazing. Yeah, just this whole movie, man, it just, from beginning to end, when you see them, come to or Donkey come to Shrek in the beginning in the swamp, we get that great sequence. And just some of the jokes in there with the farting and the burping, obviously just trying to make Shrek as disgusting as possible. So you don't like him at first, or whatever, but you're gonna love this guy because it's Mike Myers and he's just such a lovable character, and it's so easy to love him in this movie. And I really think that shines through in the way that he's able to portray this character, and some of the reasons why he chose the voice itself. So I do think Shrek hits a lot more than this movie does, only because this movie's been around for so long. It's just such a rewatchable movie. I still have to watch Puss in Boots to give obviously a great synopsis of what I think of it, but I don't think yet we can say that it's one of the best DreamWorks movies of all time, especially when, like you said, we're going up against How to Train Your Dragons and Kung Fu Pandas and Shreks. So it's kind of hard to put it out there. Plus, without Shrek, will we really even have a Puss in Boots right now?
And time. All right, so we're going to have the 4-minute open round. The timer starts up when the first competitor jumps in.
It's the fact that I knew you would say that. Without Shrek, there is no Puss in Boots, which is fair. Right. That is fair. And no, Puss in Boots has not been around that long. But think about this, though. No one has expected it to do as well as it did. No one expected it to be as great as it is. The animation is pulled from Spider-Verse. If you've seen Intergalactic on Netflix, it's a Kid Cudi movie. They pulled from that. It's so immersive, and even like some of the anime styles, it's just the action itself is so immersive. And then you get this Western standoff, like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly type level at the end. What? Are you kidding me? On top of a wishing star, sir. It is phenomenal because you see what you see in that moment.
What about the scene in the castle fighting the dragon and stuff?
And that's great.
Come on, we get that great scene.
I mean, that's true. And Shrek is phenomenal. Shrek is phenomenal in every way. I love Shrek.
Man, how do we? I mean, come on, man. Gingerbread Man is one of the greatest characters ever in animation.
Did you know the Muffin Man? It's quotable. It's great. Shrek is phenomenal, and I love Shrek. I love Shrek. Trust and believe, but this movie just did something a little bit more than what Shrek did. Shrek's lessons were more like, not obviously not judging a book by its cover, and it's a great lesson that we all have to learn. But I felt like Puss in Boots just took a much more mature route in its theme, in its themes, and its
but it's
story.
Also a look at love, because he doesn't feel like he's good enough for her.
True.
And she doesn't feel like she's good enough for him because of what she turns in, because so there's a lot more going on than just that.
See,
so
I'm glad you said that, because that also brings me to another point. See, now we're talking about love. I like that, Don. We're going.
Yeah,
I like
of
this.
course. This movie has a ton of love. That's all this movie is about, is love between friends and spouse. Not spouses, but significant others. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it's there in The Last Wish. See, Puss meets Perito, who's like this therapy.
Again, I have to take your
dog,
word for that. I can't comment on that, so I
No,
can't.
and that's fair. I'm just saying from myself and what I've witnessed and seen. See, Puss and Perito, they become it's Rocky at first. You know, he's just a therapy dog, and he's just kind of like waving them off. But Perito ends up teaching him these lessons, like, you know, sometimes you just gotta enjoy life for what it is. Just take the ride and enjoy life. Don't try to rush things ever so much. And we don't see Puss marry softballs. They touched on that at one point. And why he didn't? Well, because he loved being a legend more than he loved.
But I also feel
like
too, do we really care about where Puss in Boots is right now if we don't get him in Shrek eventually, and we don't have that adventure with him or adventures with him really, because there's 2 movies that he really is in. So I don't know. Does this movie hit as hard without them building him up? And again, I'm not saying that this movie can't work on its own just because it's a spin-off character. I'm just saying, does it really hit as hard if his story isn't as great in the Shrek movies originally?
But that's the thing. Like, we didn't really get his story that well in the originals, and then in the first Puss in Boots movie, while I like it more than most people, I mean, most people will probably say,
I think
"Yeah,
it's a good movie."
it's a good movie," you know. But it's not like, all right, like if we're having a great debate like this, it doesn't come up in the conversation. But Puss in Boots 2 most assuredly does, because, like I said, it caught the entire world off guard, and the way that they were able to convey things. I've talked to people about it, and they were like, they took their kids to see it, and they did not expect it to be as dark as it was, but they also didn't expect it to be as great as it was, and it is great. I mean, it really you just have to see it. Like, I can't.
Again, I've heard nothing but great things.
Enough.
It's definitely something I want to see. Just haven't got to see it yet. But for me, when we're talking about, again, best DreamWorks animation of all time, I just can't get it there yet.
All right, we're gonna go into the final minute. Josh, up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
See, I don't think that I don't think time even plays a factor, honestly. I mean, like, as soon as the first granted there weren't that many, but at the time you could say that, you know, maybe Toy Story 2 was the greatest, you know, Pixar movie of all time at that point in time. You could say that. Time, I don't think time really plays a factor. I think it really boils down to, how did that movie impact you? How did it hit you? What is it about this movie that you quote so much, that you grab onto so much? What did you take, and like, what did you learn from it? Like, what was it? It just, when I tell you, I sat there and I just was mesmerized start to finish. Not that Shrek didn't do it, because I would put that on repeat on my VHS when I was younger, like all the time, no problems and whatsoever. But Puss in Boots, I've been saying I need to go find that damn DVD, and I will get it. You will not stop me, Walmart. I'm going to get that DVD because I love that movie so much. It is so good, and if you haven't had the chance to see it, you absolutely should see it. Peacock
And
streaming.
Oh shit! Give me a second.
Yep.
There we go. You got to hit the pause button, and sometimes you reset the timer. With that said, Don, back over to you. You got 1 minute on the clock, sir. When ready.
So if we're talking about the best DreamWorks film of all time, animated film of all time, Shrek just hits all the buttons for me. It's such a great buddy comedy. It's such a great love comedy and just love story in general. We get one of the most insane love stories with Donkey and Dragon again. Like I said, some of the characters we meet stay with us for a long time, and when like Gingerbread Man passes eventually and gets, you know, things happen to him, we all, you know, really feel that. So Shrek really started something that I think Puss in Boots is getting to benefit from. And that, again, it doesn't diminish the movie. I just feel like it's Shrek is where this all started, and all the feelings that we have for characters like Puss in Boots come from this movie, Shrek originally, the original. So I think, again, when we're talking best animated of all time, Shrek is what it is.
And time.
Yep.
All right. We're going to go ahead and sit you guys in the back, as we will go ahead and bring the judges in for the deliberation here. And as they're going ahead and getting their points wrapped up here, their answers down. While we were going through, I always like doing this when we have questions like this. Using Rotten Tomatoes as an aggregator, just because, especially because at the beginning they spent time talking about some of the good films that DreamWorks had, probably to counteract the fact that I just pulled up a bunch of the shit that they've made over the years and, brought that into the equation. Well, going on to using Rotten Tomatoes as a consensus, when you go through, so both the films that they chose, without giving away where they're placed, are in the top 10 in terms of DreamWorks films on Rotten Tomatoes. But when you remove both of these films from the potential top 5, the 5 films that remain as purportedly DreamWorks' 5 best films, How to Train Your Dragon is considered the highest rated film that they've released, and that is aside from both of these. It is considered the best. The other members of the top 5 include Chicken Run at number 2, Ants would be number 3, How to Train Your Dragon 2, number 4, and How to Train Your Dragon 3, number 5. So clearly, there's a fan favorite. With that said, Andrea, we'll go up to you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main selling point?
Okay, my vote goes to Josh for this round. I just feel like um there wasn't really much back and forth or arguments presented against Puss in Boots, but on the fact that he wasn't able to actually watch the movie, which I think is a really, at least to get some knowledge about the movie you're debating against, would be beneficial with arguing against, since we are debating the best DreamWorks film. So I think that it became a hindrance to Don's argument. So my vote goes to Josh for this round.
All right, and then Chris, down to you for your vote.
This is tough because I do love both of these movies. Both of them make really good arguments. But strangely enough, despite every hindrance to him, I see Don pull it. I just think, and it's a scene that Josh could have pulled away from. When Don mentioned that Ralph threat, you would have had Puss in Boots. That he talked about the romance, he talked about the laugh, the humor, and everything. I think Don just slowly pulled it in the end last second for me.
Okay, which means Maria, will go over to you. Who gets your vote?
Oh boy, this was a tough one. I'll be honest, I don't necessarily agree with Puss in Boots as any kind of contender for number one, but the arguments were good. He is definitely in love with that movie. I thought it was okay. Don lost me when he said Mike Myers is a lovable character. Lovable, Mike himself. Anyway, my vote went to Josh for Puss in Boots. I thought he did a good job explaining it. Convinced me, and I wouldn't normally go there.
Okay. All right. Judges, thank you guys so much. I'm going to go ahead and set you all in the back because our winner by a final score of 3-0 with a knockout victory, Joshua Diggins pulling out the victory. Josh, I said you had a unique pitch. You have a unique way of presenting arguments. You obviously, being an actor, you have a style that you like to bring to it, which I certainly appreciate. Obviously, being any kind of theatrical brings a difference to a way a competitor approaches this. And that is a 360 turnaround. You went from being knocked out against Joe in your first match to then knocking out an opponent in this match. How do you feel about that victory?
I feel good, man. Me and Don, we have conversations and debates all the time. So it's always fun, like just going back and forth with him. And this was a fun match. I honestly was not expecting to win that first question specifically. Jason, one of our friends over at Multiverse Geekdom, he actually was saying if he was one of the judges, he probably would have went with National Lampoon's, and I'm sure he would have. But I just felt like. I said I'm going to argue Monsters University as best I can, and try to pull from I guess my life experience and how that movie played out, and just really play with the question because you said, or Austin had submitted best comedy set in the college, and it was just the first one that happened to pop to mind, and I haven't really seen a lot of college comedy, so I should check out some more in case there's something else that comes down the line. But yeah, no, this was a great match. I feel great. I know I'm not in the tournament, but I would definitely love to keep going up against different people just to, get better each and every time. So, yeah, I'm here to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, of course, we discussed that, with 1-1, obviously schedules pending and everything, there was an opportunity to potentially get you in the tournament. Of course, now the way that this will all upload, because we're starting the recording of the tournament, and we've said this before publicly, if anyone hasn't seen this in a video, because we're starting the recording of the tournament far before when it begins uploading, it may appear to people that Josh's next match is before the start of the recording of the tournament, but more than likely it will not be in terms of when we record the matches themselves. So that does mean that you won't have a chance to try and pick up that extra win and get into the tournament. But it does mean that for the remainder of the season, however many matches we're able to get you into play, that you will be able to sort of stay in your lane for the moment against these newer or lower ranked competitors and sort of work your way up that way. We've seen in the past rookies come in and hit a tournament very quickly and boost themselves that way. And we have seen people work their way up slowly towards those higher ranks. Do you like that potential approach? And then what do you think of going into your next match? You're going to be finally taking on somebody that you're probably not as familiar with, certainly not as much as Don and Joe.
I think that I like this approach because, like I said, that'll be my third match, and I'm okay with trusting the process. That's how I've been really taking a lot of like my life lately. So if that's the way I have to go, I will take that way there just to be able to climb to the top and become champion at some point. We'll see. I will say that that I think that if I had just went into the tournament with limited experience, I might not have I'm confident that I would do well, but I think that I still have a lot more competitors to learn to kind of gauge what strategies I can use against future opponents, and just study different people. I always like to study my opponents. No, I have not read The Art of War eventually, but but I do like to study my opponents.
Gotta have a lot of time for that one. It's
exactly.
That's a passion project, not a hobby. That is.
Yeah. Learn how to become the best, the next William Wallace. Who knows?
Well, let's hope your ending's better than his. Josh, till the next one, sir. Take care of yourself. We will see you in the near future. As I'll go ahead and sit you in the back and bring in Don here. And Don, obviously, this is your first time on the end of a loss like this. They're always tough to take, but certainly some bright moments in there of debate. That second round was really, really strong for both of you. I think there was some good back and forth there. But as you said at the start, there's always things to learn. There's always things to grow from. What do you take from this match?
I think the judges really had some great notes. I actually want to go back and listen to those again, some of the judgments, because that can only help what I need to work on as far as how I'm forming my arguments and stuff. So I just want to say also, man, Josh is a great competitor, so it was great to play against him. And if I got to get knocked out by somebody first, I guess I'll accept that it's him. But I'm coming for him. I want a rematch. I want a rematch, Josh. I will say that.
Absolutely. And so obviously at 1 and 2 right now, because you're still newer, you're going to get those opportunities a little quicker, like all of our rookies have when they're able. And so you're going to get a match ahead of the tournament. And obviously, if you can win that match, you'll come in at 2 and 2. And while that doesn't necessarily guarantee you a slot, because we have a lot of positive record competitors and a few more competitors with those higher win records, it could shake out that you could pick up one of those lower slots in the tournament. So I'll ask you sort of the double-sided question going forward. What are you looking forward to in your next match potentially? And then afterwards, if there's a chance to pick up that 15, 16 seed slot in the tournament, obviously the scale of opponent increases very quickly, but does that scare you, or are you ready for the challenge?
Sure. I mean, being 1 and 2, it kind of scares me, but no, I mean, I definitely want to sharpen my, ability to have these matches, because I think with winning my last match, that really gave me a lot of confidence. And, losing this match, I think, is going to help me in different ways, and help me get me motivated to do a little more research when I'm, on some of the questions. So I really thought I had that first question, like Josh said, I really did. But it is what it is. I just like having these fun debates, and having it with a guy like Josh was really fun also. So I'm definitely excited. Yeah, if I can get into the tournament though, and get a couple wins, then that would be nice. And maybe hopefully put me in a position for next season to have some more good matches. So.
Absolutely, man. Well, I always say this to people. At the end of the day, this is a show where you bring your opinions against somebody else's opinions and then get judged by other people with opinions. So
Sure.
try not to take it too harshly. Everybody has a bad day at the
not at all.
office. And certainly in your first two matches, both of those going to the blind round, one of them being a win, you've certainly proven thus far that this is not you at your best, and it can only go up from here. Again, sir.
Sure.
So till next time, take care of yourself. We will see you in the future as we'll go ahead and wrap this up. Guys, another great match in the Battleground tonight. Congratulations to Josh for pulling out that first win. And Don, thank you again for being here, sir. We look forward to having you back next time. Thank you to my judges, Chris, Andrea, and Maria, for being here with us tonight. Thank you to all of you for watching at home. Please be sure to rate the video, drop a comment, interact with the channel, subscribe, and stick around for more Movie Battleground content coming at you every week. With that said, my name is Aaron Knoll, and on behalf of everyone here, we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.